Hey guys, Blessing here. Good to have you all here. Thank you for tuning into this channel. This is Blessing Njoh Travel and Lifestyle, where we discuss everything travel and lifestyle. Yeah. So today we are talking about becoming a house owner here in the Netherlands. So I went live a few days back. I did a house tour actually. If you haven't watched that video, go scroll down. When you're through with this one, you can scroll down, click on that video and check it out. So I did a house tour, kind of like showed you guys, for those of you who already watched the video, I showed you where we live and the kind of house that we purchased in this area of the Netherlands. And of course, it's not just about showing you where we live, but also teaching you guys or giving you the knowledge on how you also can become a house owner here in the Netherlands and what steps you need to follow to maybe be able to buy a house. For me to just share some of my experience with you guys and how we went about it, what kind of paperwork is required, for you to even be able to apply for a mortgage. So today I am going to be sharing 10 steps with you. I hope this video doesn't get too long. I'm going to try to keep it as concise as possible. So just try to follow the 10 steps that I am going to be mentioned, that we follow, that most people follow, people who go through the mortgage method. And that is also the method that we went through. Like I said, you can buy a house here in the Netherlands if you have the cash money to do so. You can just pay cash and the house is yours. But for you to be able to qualify to get mortgage, to get money from the bank, you have to meet certain requirements and you have to follow certain steps. And that is what I am going to be talking about in this video. So there are 10 steps, 10 basic steps. I'm not going to be going too deep into each step. I'm just simply going to be mentioning them very on the surface. So if you still have questions as to, okay, what does this entail? What is required? How do I go about it? Please feel free to drop all your comments and I'll be very glad to answer them. And if there are also other aspects that I feel like I need to shed more light on this, I am going to come back and do another video. But for now, let's keep it here like this with these 10 steps that you can follow. Drop your questions if any, and let's get right into it. So the first step that you can beat about this one, there is no two way to it, is to have an income. I mentioned it during that live stream that I did, the house tour. You need to have an income. There is no bank, I believe, anywhere in the world that is going to be willing to give you money. And when it comes to purchasing a house, becoming a house owner here in the Netherlands, you need to be able to prove to the bank that you are credible, you are credit worthy, I believe that's what it's called, and that you are able and you are financially capable to fund the house, because you are going to be paying the bank back every single month. So you have to have a job, a financial backbone that you can fall back on. So in other words, you need a job, but also even if you don't have a job, luckily here in the Netherlands, and it might also be the same in other countries, you don't necessarily have a job, but you should have an income. So you can have a business of your own, you can be in a sole proprietorship, you can be a freelancer. And also before, there was this requirement that you must be on a permanent contract with your company. If you're working for a company, that you have to have what we call a vaste baan here in the Netherlands, like you're permanent staff with that company. That is no longer the case here in the Netherlands. Like, the housing market is highly competitive right now, and also there is housing shortage, so they are kind of like making it a bit more flexible for people. So even if you're a flexible worker, you're just working through a job center, you can also buy a house. Although the bank might require you to bring a statement from your place of work, your employer would have to make a declaration that yes, you are a flex worker, but they are willing to maybe grant you a permanent position as time goes on, something like that. They just need that level of security from your company that is declaring that yes, we intend, we call it intensive declaring. So it's like an intention letter to tell the bank that we as a company, we are standing and we are saying that we have the intention to employ this person, although we don't have that permanent position for him or her yet, but we do intend to go that extra step for this person. So the bank will also accept that, and you are going to qualify for mortgage. So don't let it hold you back that, oh, I have a job, but I'm a flexible worker, or oh, I just have a small business. No, as long as that business is bringing in money, as long as your company, your employer is willing to write you that declaration, you can submit it and you can buy a house. All right, so before we go to number 2, I just realized I didn't even define mortgage. I expect and assume that everyone knows what a mortgage is, but just in case someone is wondering, okay, so what is this mortgage thing everybody's talking about? It's actually an agreement. So a mortgage is simply an agreement that you sign as an individual together with a bank or a housing institution, financial institution, in exchange for a house or a property or a business or whatsoever. So you are going into agreement with a company, with a financial institution, with a bank, and in return for that, you are going to pay interest on top of whatever they have paid for that house. Yeah, so just to make it a bit more simpler, when you want to buy a house, the bank is going to pay the entire money to the seller of the house. So you don't have money to buy the house in full, in cash, but the bank has money, so they are going to help you. They are going to pay off the seller. That means you are owing the bank money. You are not owing the seller of the house. You are not owing the old owner of the house money. You are owing the bank. So if you borrow 100,000 euros or dollars from the bank, you are not going to pay 100,000 back. You are going to pay it with an interest that you are going to agree with the bank. So that agreement between you and the bank is the mortgage. So the bank also doesn't expect you to pay the money back at once. You're going to be paying installmentally. So you're going to pay like every month you pay a bit. And that is a good way to go into step 2 of purchasing your own house. And that is to define your budget. So what can you afford? It wouldn't make sense to buy a house that you cannot afford. So that is where the calculation of your mortgage comes in. You are going to, well, this depends on how much you earn, what your age is, how much your partner earns, if you're going to be buying together with your partner or if you're going to be buying alone. Do you have other debts on your neck? Do you have student loans? Do you have a car to your name that you are also paying for? Do you have other credits? You're going to put all these checks and balances in order. You are going to see, okay, this is what I have over at the end of each month. This is what I can lose on a house. This is what I can pay as rent or as mortgage, and that is the range in which you are going to start searching for a house. Say for example you have 500 euros to pay at the end of each month on mortgage, then you are going to be looking at houses whereby the mortgage is also around that amount. So you're not going to look for houses that the mortgage will be 1,500 because you don't have that amount. So when you're going to, well, the easiest thing that I suggest for people to do is to go online and get, like, there's this free online calculator that you can use to help you calculate the mortgage that you can afford. You are going to key in your name, no, not your name. You're just going to key in your salary, your income, and all other expenses that you make, like fixed expenses that you make. And the calculator is going to like check everything and send you the result of how much you can lose on mortgage, like not lose, but how much you can afford, how much you can pay every single month. So based on that amount, you can then figure out in which range you should look for a house. And another thing is, if you're not very computer savvy, you don't know how to search for all these things online and do all this stuff, or maybe your situation is not just basic, it's not the same with an average person or a standard person. There is something unique about your personal life situation. I would suggest that you go to an advisor. We have all these mortgage advisors. In the Netherlands, we call them like the hypotheker. They have a lot of other ones, but we use the hypotheker. They are like one of the most popular. They will give you advice that is tailored to your personal situation. So maybe you are a foreigner, you are here in the Netherlands as a skilled worker, you don't have Dutch citizenship, because it's possible, and that's also another thing a lot of people don't know. They think you have to be a citizen of the Netherlands before you can buy a house. That is not true. They are going to really help you. The advisor is going to tell you based on your situation how much you earn, other costs that you maybe make every month, your situation, health situation, and just anything that could really affect what you spend on mortgage. They are going to help you to really do the calculation on what you can afford and what you cannot afford. So that is where that mortgage advisor comes in if you're not able to do it on your own. And sometimes they give you really free advice, no strings attached. The only time you pay them is when you eventually buy the house. If you don't buy the house, you don't pay them. So they are like no win, no claim. No, I've done a video about that. That's why I'm laughing. So if you don't, if there is no profit possibility for them, then you don't have to pay them. They just offer you free advice, and then hoping that when you are ready to buy a house, that you can also still use their services for them to get paid. Here in the Netherlands, they cost around 800, 900 euros. Sometimes they also do it based on the percentage of the amount of house you are buying. It all depends, but you can always get free consultation from most of these advisors. And then we move to the third step. So the third one that I always tell people is, before you even start searching for a house, have in your mind what kind of house you want. I mean, you could spend your whole life searching if you don't know what you want. But when you definitely know what you want in your mind, then it's very easy for you to search. There are so many housing websites. Here in the Netherlands we have, I'm saying in the Netherlands because I've lived here for about 20 years, so I really know a few things here. So here we have Funda.nl, that is the one we got a house from. They also have other ones that I can't really remember now off the top of my head. Other countries have other housing website. So if you are watching from outside the Netherlands, please drop me the link of the housing website of the country in which you live. If you're in the UK, US, drop me the website so that other people watching can also learn, you know, from these things. So the first thing, or rather the third thing you should know, is what kind of house do you want? And that also, of course, depends on your condition, on your situation. Are you a family man, a family woman? Do you have kids, or do you never want to have kids? Then you want to get maybe something smaller, maybe a studio. But if you have kids already, or you plan to have kids, you can maybe go for a building like this. I think this is called a duplex. For us, we were like, at that point, when we bought our house, we didn't have kids, but we bought a house with 5 homes because we knew that we were eventually going to start to have kids, and we didn't want to start moving again. So we just wanted to do it once and for all. We buy everything we want at once, and then the kids will come. And so you just really have to figure out in your mind first, before you start to search, what do I want for my situation? Do I want a house with 1 room? Where do I want to live? Do I want to live in a city? And all of that considerations you will make first, and then you start to search for your dream house. Okay, so of course that is also number 4. Start searching for your dream house. And of course, like I said, you can search on websites, but you can also employ the services of what we call makelaar. Those are like housing agents, real estate agents. They can help you do the search. It will take a lot of work off your shoulders. You can do it yourself. We did ours ourselves. Like if there are disadvantages and advantages of employing a housing agent. Usually some people like them because they really help you. They know the kind of houses that are in that neighborhood or in the area that you want to go and live. So they have that knowledge. We searched ourselves online and we got our houses. And here in the Netherlands, a housing agent could cost about 1,000 euros, 1,500 if they are going to help you to search. But that is not the only thing they help you to do within the mortgage process. They help you with a lot of other things. For example, they help you with viewing. When you eventually get a house that you like, or if they propose a house that you like to you, they will go with you actually to go look at the place, and they are also going to help you with the negotiation process. So if you're getting an agent, make sure you get an agent in the city or in the village or in the neighborhood that you intend to go and live. So you cannot want to live in Groningen. You are going to employ an agent from Amsterdam. It's not going to work because they don't have that knowledge. But if you're doing the viewing yourself, don't go alone. Go with someone who has maybe bought a house before, or who has knowledge about, you know, constructions, and who can really look at things for you. Like when we got this house, we had some cracks somewhere in the bedroom, and we brought someone along who looked at it and said, no, this is nothing. It's really just normal expansion, contraction crack that can be fixed. So that was really soothing for us. So always go with someone, always ask questions if you're doing it by yourself. There is also this checklist, this housing checklist that you can download online and print and take along. It contains a lot of questions that you can ask the sellers of the house to be sure that you are not making a wrong decision, or you are not making a mistake. In the Netherlands, and I'm sure in also a lot of other countries, you have a duty to investigate and the seller has a duty to inform. So it is your responsibility to ask questions, and it is your duty, and you have the right to do so and to get all the information. And the seller also must not keep secrets from you. They should be open and tell you, look, we have a problem with this hole or that hole. So the third advantage of getting a housing agent is that they are going to help you make all the appointments. You don't have to worry about too much. You just have to say yes or no. So they are really taking a lot of work, like I said, off your shoulders. They are going to be the one to contact the seller or the agent of the seller. They are going to make all the appointments to view. They are going to help you with a lot of things. They can also help you with getting someone to help you to do the structural inspections that I will get to in a jiffy. Right, so the next step is for you to put in an offer. That is actually step number 5. So now you have found the house of your dreams. You have found a house that you fell in love with, or that you have fallen in love with. You have gone there, you have seen the house, you have met the seller's agent, or maybe you have even met the sellers. You have looked around, you've asked all the perfect questions, you've seen the neighborhood, you've seen if the schools are close by, you've seen everything you need to see, and you are sure that it meets your own personal requirements. Then you are ready to put in an offer. So if you're doing it yourself, you can just send an email to the buyer, or to the seller rather, because you are the buyer. You can send an email to the seller and say, hey, I'm interested in your house and this is what I'm offering. So you are going to offer something based on the listing price. The listing price is just a starting point. The original or the correct value, the real value of the house, could be below or higher than the listing price that they put online. So the listing price is only going to give you an idea of what you can propose. Like I said, the negotiation will be left over for the agent, and he knows the clauses. There are some clauses you need to include in your offer if you're doing it alone. And that is why I also said that it's always safe when you're doing it for the first time to get an agent to help you out, especially with that money aspect and also the agreement and the contract aspect. Because if you make an offer for a house and the seller accepts your offer, it is binding. It is legally binding. Once the seller accepts your offer, the house is yours. I'm sorry, and you have to pay. And if you're not able to pay and you're like, no, I don't want this house, then you will be penalized. You'd have to pay, I believe, about 10% off the price. So you have to be careful when you are going into negotiation and when you are making offer to a house. So you have to be sure. You have to include clauses. For example, financial clauses. You can put the clause that if I don't get funding for this house, then there is no deal, then the deal is off. You can put such a clause. You can also put structural inspection clauses. For example, before we can buy the house, we should be sure that the damages or the flaws in the house will not cost us beyond 3,000 euros, for example. So you can put all these clauses in the agreement to make sure that you have that safety net to fall back into if anything ever goes wrong. And that agent, the housing agent, he has this knowledge, and that is why it's advisable for the first time to use them. And then if you're purchasing your next property, then you already know these simple little things that could cost you a lot. Then you can do it all by yourself, and for yourself, it's also going to save you money. Right, so the next point or the next step you need to follow to become a house owner here in the Netherlands, and usually maybe in most parts of Europe, is for you to go ahead and sign the preliminary agreement. So once you have made your offer to the seller and they accept that, okay, you've negotiated, you've gone back and forth, and usually negotiations take about 2 to 3 days before you guys say, okay, now we've agreed, we are selling to you. Now we've agreed, we are buying. And then you are going to sign the preliminary purchase agreement, which usually is done maybe via email. You don't have to go and see them. You can also do so, but we signed ours, I believe, via email. They just sent a copy to our agent. The agent sent it over to us, and then we signed it that, okay, yes, this is just the preliminary. We are not owners yet. So signing it doesn't mean you're an owner. It just means that we are getting somewhere. We are agreeing. And that agreement is binding. Once you sign it, like I said, just like making an offer that the seller accepts, this agreement is also binding, but you have a 3-day cooling off period. So if you don't cancel that agreement within 3 days, you don't buy house. You don't buy house with that. You don't become house owner. You don't have a choice. It's on you. And like I said, the 10% also applies. You're going to be penalized if, well, you feel like, oh my God, I made the biggest mistake of my life, or oh my God, I saw another house that is even more beautiful and even cheaper. Then you just be ready to pay that 10% penalty that they're going to put on top of you, because that agreement is binding. The only time that you don't have to be penalized or you don't have to pay that 10% on top of it is if, for example, you don't get mortgage, the bank doesn't accept your application for mortgage, then you don't have to pay off anything. Then you just cancel the agreement without reason or cost, which you can always do within 3 days of signing. And that 3 days, they start to count it at midnight. And also after the 3 days, the seller also has no right to sell off the property to another buyer. So for example, someone contacts them and says, oh, I want to buy the house, I'm offering you more money than this family or the other people who signed with you. They don't have the right. Like, it's done and dusted. So now you have signed the initial or the preliminary purchase agreement with your seller. Now it's time for you to go and apply for a mortgage. And actually, that agreement you signed with the seller is one of the requirements from the bank. That is one of the things, one of the documents that you have to submit in your mortgage application. So how do we actually go about a mortgage application? Where do you just walk into a bank and say, I want to buy a house, borrow me money? Maybe it used to be like that in those days, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. I have no idea, but I know that the bank has given people money before to go and buy a house. But these days, I don't think it still happens that way. These days, you have to go through an institution. So you go through a broker or a mortgage advisor, the same one I talked about at the beginning of this video. Let's just say broker. You'd go through a broker and they are going to stand for you at the bank. So they are going to put in the application on your behalf. They are also going to help you to check through which financial lender has the best interest for your own situation, personal situation. They're going to help you with the comparison, like give you the best options, the best lenders options, like which ones are best for your own situation. And then you, of course, you are going to choose which lender you want to go for. So that is where the broker comes in, like I was saying. And then the bank is going to ask for several documents. This is where the real work starts. You know, searching for a house is fun, negotiating is fun, but you know, the real thing, coming face to face with the bank, well, not you, but someone is doing the work for you, but you are praying that, oh God, I pray the bank accepts my application, because it's really, really like, so the bank is going to look at all this paperwork. They're going to ask for payment slips from your work. They are going to ask for a declaration or a statement from your employer also, which is going to state all your annual income. They are also going to ask for a valuation report or an appraisal report. And that is something that you have to submit to the bank. And that is also another thing that the agent helps you with. So before you go and apply for mortgage from a bank, you would have to bring in a professional to survey the house, to kind of like do a report on the house, on the price. Is the price really the actual value? So if you're borrowing money from the bank, say you're borrowing 100,000 euros from the bank wants to be sure that that house is really worth 100,000 euros. And not 50,000. You know, these are all the costs that you should put into consideration, because it's not just about getting money from the bank to buy a house, you also have to put in some money. So before you buy a house, start to save. You have a job, save some money, put some money aside. There are costs here and there that you have to make. It's also good to have a structural inspection on the house to see if there are maybe flaws around the house that you need to be aware of. If there is a giant sink somewhere, or if there is leakage in the bathroom, you know, anything that is going to cost you extra, it's always good to be aware beforehand. So the bank is going to ask you a lot of documents, you know, to just be able to back up your application, and the bank is eventually going to decide if you qualify to get mortgage or not. So number 8, I'm just going to assume that the bank grants your application and then you get the mortgage. But in a situation whereby the bank says no, they usually are going to give you a good reason why they rejected your application. And also usually your broker, the mortgage broker, is also supposed to tell you if you even stand a chance, because before they take your case to the bank, you have quite a high chance of getting that mortgage. So they also have that expertise, that knowledge and experience to tell you if you are likely to qualify or not. So in most cases you will qualify, yeah. And then once you get that go that yes, we are going to give these people money, of course you're going to start to throw a party, but keep it at the back of your mind, you're not going to see that money with your eyes, because the bank is going to transfer the money not to your account, but the bank is going to transfer it to the notary. So you are also going to pay for that. So those are costs that just start jotting them down. You're going to pay for the real estate agent if you choose to use one. You're going to pay for the advisor, that's the hypothec or the mortgage advisor. You are going to pay for the notary. You are going to pay for the survey of the house, the valuation survey. So there are these other costs here and there that you should put into consideration. And of course, you're going to pay 10%. I was going to say 10,000, but no, 10% of the value of the house. So you're not just buying a house empty-handed. I've heard a few people say that there are some mortgage systems whereby you don't have to pay anything at all. You just go apply for mortgage and the house is yours and you're good to go. In our situation, we were mandated to pay 10% of the value of the house. So all the money were sent from our end, 10% from us went to the notary, the money from the bank went to the notary. It's the notary that actually sends the money to the seller. So the seller is not getting the cash money from me or from the bank, if that makes sense. So now let's just assume and hope that the bank approves your application. The next thing for you to do is to get your insurances in order. You need to be insured. It's mandatory here in the Netherlands. You need home insurance, like that. And it's also very good. If anything happens around the house, you're covered, like anything at all. And that is the difference with, you know, homes in Africa. If God forbid a house burns down, it's a loss, people are crying. But if a house burns down, God forbid, here in Europe, you are covered. You're not going to be homeless. The insurance company is going to take care of you because you're paying for this thing every single month. So that's another cost as a house owner that you have to consider. You also have to pay some quarterly fees to the province where you live or to the council where you live, and those fees could range from, let's say, 200 to 500 euros every quarter. So at the end of each year, you're paying about 1,000 to 2,000 euros every year as a house. I don't know if I mixed up the numbers here and there, but if you're following, just know that this is number 9, and that is the closing day. That is when you go to the notary and you sit down together with the seller. That is the day that all the papers are going to be signed. The notary is like the lawyer. So you have to pay legal fees for that also. They are going to supervise the exchange of the keys to really say, okay, we were here when this happens. They are going to supervise that the payments, the transfer of the money goes smoothly, that yes, the bank transferred to the seller, you transferred the 10%. They are really going to be there as really like the government. They are going to sit down and be supervising what is happening. You are also going to get the certificate of ownership presented to you with your name and everything. That is really beautiful. You're going to sign the official papers. It's like that moment of, yes, I'm a landlord. That is when the thing really sinks, that it is happening. They are just going to really hand over everything, all the, you know, it's like a booklet. You get, I think, 2 different ones, because you sign 2 deeds. You sign a mortgage deed, and I think another one they call the transfer deed. You sign them, the notary keeps a copy, you get a copy. So everywhere you go in the Netherlands, you are there that, okay, yes, you're a registered house owner. And of course, all these things that I mentioned initially that you have to pay for, you can deduct the taxes on those expenses from your yearly tax, so you can get tax refund. So for example, the interest, that is another beautiful thing, that the interest that you pay on top of your mortgage to the bank, you can deduct it at the end of each year. Some people get it back at the end of every month. We decided to have ours back at the end of the year. There is no need getting what, I don't know how many hundreds of euros it is, but we just feel like, okay, it would make much sense. It would have a bigger impact if we got it in bulk at the end of the year. So we always take it along with our annual tax submission. So once all of this is done and the notary has transferred ownership of the house to you, the house is yours. You have the keys. You can go in and come out anytime you want. You can park your car there. The house is yours. You can change the name at the door. That brings me to number 10, and that's the final thing. You have to change your entire address. You set up your utilities, electricity. You have to transfer the name from the old owner to yours. Water, that's like the final stage. And of course, once everything is set and everything is done, you can move in. So that is basically it. Those are the 10 major steps. Of course, for your situation, you might have to do 1 or 2 extra other things, or you might not have to do 1 or 2 other things, but these are like the basic steps that most people have to undergo before they can get a mortgage, or during and after their mortgage application. This is like basic. And like I said, what holds a lot of people back is their job. They feel like, oh, I cannot because of my job situation. You have to get advice, get professional advice tailored to your own situation. Don't just assume that, okay, a lot of people say, if you don't have a job, you can buy. It's not true. If you have a business that is bringing in money, you can buy. A lot of people say, oh, if I don't have a Dutch passport or a European passport, I cannot purchase a house. It is not true. You live in that country legally. You have a certain kind of documentation and you have a certain kind of status. Go get professional, explicit information that matches and suits your own situation, and don't just let what people are saying confuse you or derail you. Go get professional information. I cannot stress it enough, because you just might be losing out, and then you can know what is possible for your own situation or not. So in my next video, like I said, I want to talk about inheritance. Like, a lot of people that I know personally don't want to buy a house in Europe, especially immigrants. They feel like, it's not like in Africa where we come from. If anything happens to us as parents, our children can always inherit our property. But here in Europe, as an immigrant, if anything happens, God forbid, it's not going to happen to any of us at a young age, but if anything happens here in Europe, your children cannot inherit your property, because it becomes government property, or whatsoever the myth or the truth or fallacy could be. I want to do another video talking about that. Is it really true that your offspring cannot inherit your property here in Europe? So if you want to hear all those other videos, all you have to do is to click on that subscribe button. Subscribe on this channel. This is a new channel. I have another bigger channel where I do another kind of content, but here I really want to come here and really feel comfortable to share some of my knowledge and experience with you guys, and adventures, of course, when I travel out of the Netherlands, and also share some of the things that I see within other cultures and how other people live their lives in other places. I want to share them here on this channel with you. So if you enjoy this kind of content, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Also turn on the notification bell so that you can be notified anytime I upload a new video. And sometimes here and there I can also do live streams. You can join in, share, and just we sit here, gain knowledge, you know, go home with something that can really add value to our lives. That is what I am all about, to teach and to learn. So thank you again for watching. Stay tuned, anticipate, look out for those many other excellent, educative, informative other videos that I am going to be bringing on this channel. I will catch you guys on my next one.